How are you all doing? It's episode 4 of the Football Pod here with Paddy Andrews and James O'Donoghue. I got the two lads with me. We are recording, as we always do, on a Monday night. It is February the 14th, Valentine's night. What are you two doing here with me on Zoom? Thought you'd be busy this evening, no?
Three losers. Three lads with three mots. And here we are chatting for an hour and a half talking garbage on Zoom. Oh, it's sad times, lads.
Well,
sad times.
We got it on
last night. A lovely romantic dinner last night.
Well played, James.
And a handy Monday night then.
Where'd you go?
The Ross. You know the Ross in Killarney? Or the Lane Bar?
Oh, beautiful. Sounds romantic.
It is romantic. Her treat, of course.
Ah, not lovely.
We'd a voucher.
Christmas present. I had to get rid of him. Had to be used by the end of February.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, we went out Saturday night and I was Christmas Cinderella because I had us home by midnight. So it was a nice night out though. Oh, Paddy, what did you get up to? You're a newly married man. Surely yourself and Doreen got up to something.
I've ticked the box now. I'm free. I don't have to do Valentine's Day for at least 3 years now. I have to do the wedding in December. So
that's how it works.
No, what did we do? We actually went for pizza last night. Very romantic. And that was it. And work today. Got a set of flowers for her there. I'm actually looking at them across the kitchen there now.
Lovely.
So, yeah, who said romance is dead? She's inside watching telly.
Right, boys, we better crack on here. Saturday night, we got to talk about this. The club finals were on. It was a funny time for them to be on. They were in between the rugby, which is kind of tough. I'm not sure they got the audience they may have got. No. But I tell you one thing. If there was ever a sport to take off on social media, if they needed a clip, they got two fairy tale endings. Like Harry Ruddle's score for Ballygunner. Like, it is just ridiculous. I know we don't talk about hurling very much here on the Football Pod. We're football snobs here, but just to take that ball 50 yards from goal, run in and bury it from 40 yards, just outrageous stuff. And you just didn't think it could be topped. Let's call a spade a spade. The football final, it wasn't the greatest game to watch. It was tough going for a while, but I think it could have been anticipated given the two styles of the teams. They were quite similar, so you were possibly expecting something like that. But Jesus, Paddy, the way that ended. Have you been talking to Andy Crokes, boys?
I think Paul Mannion is he's there in body, but he's not there in mind at the minute, I'd say, for the last couple of days. But no, it was an interesting way to end it. Obviously, the hurling was Hollywood stuff, like for Ballygunner, and the same for Kilcoo, who've been knocking on the door for the last couple of years. My takeaway from it, and we've touched on this last season, it probably came to the fore, goalkeepers getting involved in the play. And what Rory Began and Niall Morgan have started, and they've done it really well. I think some maybe goalkeepers can get carried away with this. And you look at the last play, Conor Ferris comes out. It's not just him. With Crokes kind of 6 points up in the first half, and you assume that they're going to see it out. Kilcoo really, really struggling, which is uncharacteristic for them, considering they've been in finals before, but they looked unbelievably nervous. They get it back and they get the draw. Then Crokes, to be fair to him, Keane O'Connor, who was actually on the Dublin squad, he's a back, kicks two massive frees, like for a guy who's not a free taker, not a forward, and kicks two really pressurised frees and looks to have won it for Crokes again, and they go 2 points up. And Kilmacud start playing this keep ball, like time-wasting tactic. That's a really, really high-risk strategy. And even as it was happening, I was watching it before, obviously, the incident where Conor Ferris kicks the ball away. You're nervous for Crokes because you're thinking, I don't know if they've the capability to pull this off. It's really high risk. If it goes wrong, it can lose you the game. And the big thing I would say, and we used to do this quite a bit with Dublin, and we've done it in big games against Mayo in particular in All-Ireland finals. If you're keeping the ball, it's fine. But you've got to move. You can't keep it in the same position, the same area of the pitch. So if you have a wing back and say you're on the Hogan stand side and you hand pass the ball back to the cornerback, that's fine. But the next pass has to be out of that area. You have to go across to the goalkeeper or across to the other side of the pitch. You can't keep it in the same area because what it does, it allows a cluster. It gives the opposition a target to come and close you down. And you can see it a couple of times with Crokes, where Crokes were maybe 2 or 3 hand passes, but all in the same area of the pitch, and Kilcoo were converging on them. And you're just thinking, this is going to go wrong here. They're going to turn this ball over. And it happens there at the Hogan stand side.
Yeah.
The pass that should have been made was into the centre of the pitch. There's a wing back in the middle of the pitch. There's 3 Kilcoo guys coming. And because the goalkeeper, Conor Ferris, is there, why he's out basically at his 45, he should not be out there. He in no way should he be out there. He shouldn't even be an option. But because he's there, the ball is hand passed back to him. And Kilcoo are all over him. And you can just see this is going to go wrong. And to be fair, he's probably better off. If you look back, he could kick it into the stand, just kick it into Rowe's head and kill 10 seconds and let's get set again. He could just literally overcarry the ball and nearly cause a melee after last week and just not give the ball back. And that kills 30 or 40 seconds. And again, it allows Crokes to get set. The worst thing he can do is lash the ball away to the middle of the pitch, and you're watching on telly, so you're just hoping from a Crokes point of view there's someone there, a Crokes, so I can even break it, but it pans out and it's literally onto the bread basket of Kilcoo. And this, honest to God, the second he kicked the ball there, I said straight away, they're in trouble here. That is the last place it should go. He should, look at that. I don't think the goalkeeper should be out there, but if you're playing that keep ball tactic, you've got to get it out of the air. You can't keep it in the same area for 10, 15 seconds because teams are going to converge. And if you look, we said in the first pod of this year reviewing the first game in the National League, the same thing happened with Mayo and Donegal and Markievicz Park, where Donegal are a point up and Mayo are a team that are really difficult to do this against because their forwards close you down. They hound you. And Ryan McHugh gets a ball over on the sideline. And it's fine trying to keep the ball in those conditions. It was very difficult, but he goes back to Sean Patton, and it's a 10-yard hand pass, and Sean Patton then starts soloing the ball. You've got to get it out of there quickly. Kick it dead or get it into the middle of the pitch and across to the far side. You keep it in the same area. Mayo end up winning the free. Rob Henley kicks the score. Donegal lose the 2 points, and Crokes the exact same scenario. Back to the goalkeeper, panics. And it's a disaster. The minute it goes to Kilcoo, you're thinking they're under pressure here, and they'll regret it because it's the All-Ireland Club final. It's a massive game, and it's an error that's so avoidable. But you could kind of get the sense it's a high-risk strategy, and the wrong players were on the ball at the wrong time, and ultimately that's what's cost.
Yeah, James, like that.
That's the thing. Sorry, Tommy, but that's the thing. In the last minute of a game, the people you don't want on the ball are your full back line and your goalie. If you're going to hold the ball, get it up the field to your good players who love having the ball and love taking that pressure on themselves around the opposition 45, and you can go over and back maybe there and maybe back a bit and up again. But as soon as you invite them onto your keeper and your full back line, it's like a mental switch. You could see the Kilcoo lads, once it went back to the keeper, they went, we have him, we're in here. And even when you saw the behind the goal camera, which we like, all you could see was Kilcoo jerseys for some reason, you know.
Yeah.
Like, there's no full back line going to be sprinting to help a fella out there. It's the half forward line who are comfortable on the ball. You want to go in for it.
Would I be right in saying, that's really interesting the way you said it, would I be right in picturing in the 2019 All-Ireland final when Dublin are a man down and they're playing, they manage to somehow go, I think they're ahead, they're playing keep ball in that first game. And I can also picture it in the 2017 final. All I can picture is Johnny Cooper on the sideline, somehow miraculously between himself and Clucks keeping it away. Against Mayo. It was against Mayo. Sorry, it wasn't Kerry. It was against Mayo. Like, sometimes I suppose you can't. What? Say it again.
Pretending to look calm. Absolutely.
But it was so close. It was so close. Like, but sometimes I suppose you can't get it up the field.
But what I'd say on that, Tommy, and we would have practiced this scenario so much. We'd have been happy enough for Johnny being on the ball because Johnny's he's an unbelievable footballer. And in terms of a goalkeeper that you'd like to have on it, like you'd have Morgan, you'd have Beggan, you'd have Cluxton. This is now triggering all goalkeepers to try and do this, and that is not the way this should happen. All those guys play outfield with their clubs; they're naturally good players. But what we would have done with Dublin, if you look, I remember it well because we focused on Johnny Cooper's on the Kazakhstan side, and Mayo are. Bear in mind, this is the last minute of an All Ireland, so every team is going to be desperate to get the ball back, particularly Mayo, the way their forwards tackle. You draw them in, and Johnny knows there's 2 or 3 guys coming to him, gets the ball back to Cluxton, who then kicks it to the far side of the pitch. And Niall Scully ends up being in total space. The referee ends up blowing the whistle, but Niall Scully's probably through on goal at that stage. But what we would have always said is if you're keeping the ball, the max passes you'd have in one area is 2 or 3. And then it needs to get out of that area because a team are going to converge in there.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're on the sideline. And if you go back to the cornerback and goes back to the halfback,
the sideline's the defender.
The next pass has to be out of there. Somebody has to come and get that ball in the middle of the pitch, or if you're really brave, you go all the way across like a Dermot Connolly and kicks it 60 yards across the pitch. But it's a high risk strategy, and I was never comfortable watching Crokes doing it because you just got the sense they're not overly comfortable doing this. There's massive pressure on at the time, but when you see the goalkeeper coming out getting it, it's like you should not be out there. You should not, like, even if it's Rory O'Carroll coming to get the ball or someone like that. Yeah. You could see it going wrong.
Even the forward's mindset there, Paddy, right? Say if I was defending as a forward and James McCarthy had the ball, I'd kind of be stepping off him because I know that he's so comfortable on the ball and he has that burst of pace that he'll go past me. Whereas if I see a fella whose solo is maybe a bit high and he kind of juggling it a bit, I can kind of get excited. Then I can dispossess this fella, and as soon as I go, the next 2 or 3 fellas are coming in as well, and suddenly there's a massive press on. Like when it comes down to All-Ireland finals, those things make such a difference. Just who's on the ball at the right time. But you're right about if the goalie there just overcarried it. Yeah. Because he'd have gone down probably. They'd have tried to wrestle the ball off him. There would have been Emily.
I'm careful about like promoting Emily after last week. But if he does that kills a minute on the clock.
It's done.
And Crokes get everyone back. The minimum they're giving away is a point. Minimum.
Exactly.
Even the mistake aside, and there was so much that went on in that game. Like the Kilcoo lads spoke about being sick at half time. They'd only kicked 2 points and they felt like they'd let themselves down. They got back to I suppose the edge of being on top of the mountain, and they were about to let themselves lose. And they came out in that second half and they came back and they just equalised. Can't remember who the Crokes defender was that made that unbelievable block, but on Brannigan. But Devlin ends up squeezing the ball over the bar, bringing it to extra time. Rory O'Carroll had made a couple of massive tackles in those last couple of minutes as well. But like that, when that ball lands in a Kilcoo man's hand, James, like I know it's last chance to Lou, but like the way Shane Johnson takes that ball on, he doesn't rush it. He doesn't bomb it into the square. Now it's insane that there's 2 lads unmarked on the edge of the square and they get 2 chances. The 2 Johnsons are there. But when Shane takes that man on, 2 men on, and picks out his brother, shot saved, and Jerome was in the right place at the right time. Like this is a fella who scored so many goals throughout the Ulster and the club and the provincial series this year. And he was asked about it. And I don't know whether he just brushed it off and said it was a bit of luck, but he did so well to stay out of the square as well. Like, I don't know whether that's a fluke. Yeah. Like, is it a fluke that he's a foot and he's just waiting? But it was an unbelievably... You have to take your moment when it's presented to you.
You do, but the way he's gone around, the way when he gets the ball and he takes it past the wing back, like you're talking 90th minute probably, where he played 65 plus 20 odd, in the extra time plus injury time. And he's had the confidence in his legs and his fitness, in his skill to take a man on and then pick out a pass with his head up. And I know how Kilmacud had nobody there in front of the goal in the last second is unforgivable. But to be fair, you have to give Kilcoo credit for creating a chance, because if you think about it, it was actually 6. It was the 20th minute with 2 to go. Wasn't it 2 minutes injury time? If he chipped a point, they're looking at a kick out with a chance to draw. So he went for the juggler. He made the call there. He goes, right, we're going all for nothing here with 2 minutes to go. And it paid off. But I mean, for the ball to fall to you in the 6-yard box with a chance to win the All-Ireland, I mean, it's fairy tale stuff. He did unreal. Yeah. I would have thrown a leg at it.
Would you? Instead of catching it?
I would have volleyed it, yeah. I probably would have shanked it, but he did well to set himself to catch it.
Yeah, sensational.
On the point of how you're right, there's 2 Kilcoo lads inside 10 yards from inside the square on their own. And you're thinking, how was that happening? We said it. We were dissecting the Dublin Armagh match in week 1, talking about how Dublin looked so open at the back because they turned the ball over in their attack. They're not set defensively. And I swear to God, lads, I was watching, and I asked my wife, she was sitting there watching with me. The second that ball is kicked by the goalkeeper, Conor Ferris, and it lands with the Kilcoo player in the middle of the pitch, I said, they're in trouble here. Because you're not set. The players who shifted across to try and get the ball off the goalkeeper, Kilcoo have pushed everyone forward. They are under pressure. And again, you're looking at that play where he goes by, it's Andy McGowan with a brilliant game for Crokes.
Yeah.
I'm shouting at him, pull him down, give away the free. You're 2 points up. And I'll give you a classic example. Keane O'Sullivan won't thank you for this. We were playing Donegal in 2016 in the All-Ireland quarter-final. It was the first time we'd played them since the famous game where they beat us in 2014. And we were winning the game quite comfortably with a good first half. And we must have been 5 or 6 points up early in the second half. And we were doing this. We were keeping the ball. And this was Dublin kind of starting to get into this mold of managing the game and keeping the ball. Yeah. We must have had it for about 2 minutes.
When did the fist start? When did that start?
No.
I don't think that was that early, but anyway, we were keeping it, and like we were cruising in the game, and we were shooting into the canal end, and the ball came back to Keane, and it must have been about halfway, and he was going for a 30-yard kick pass to the middle of the pitch to whoever it was, Fenton or someone, and he just sliced it under no pressure, and it went straight to Ryan McHugh, and this was like still in Donegal's half. And every one of us knew, like, we're under pressure here. Donegal scored a goal from that play. Because we'd all pushed up, we were keeping wide, and we turned the ball over right in the middle of the pitch. And every one of us, we were doing a review of the game the next day. We ended up winning the game anyway in the game, but we were reviewing that goal and how we conceded it. Keane himself and everyone else in the team was, what were you thinking when that ball goes to Ryan McHugh? And we all just said goal. We knew, even though he was in his own half. Because when you turn the ball over, your team is set in an attacking formation. You are wide open at the back. Wide open at the back. And that was the exact thought I had when Conor Ferris kicked.
And what does Keane say?
He just sliced it.
But he's hardly spending the meeting going, sorry lads, I didn't mean it. Like, what's he saying?
No, it wasn't. It was going, what happened? And he's like, I sliced it. And then everyone is just in panic mode, sprinting back towards our goal. But Donegal Ryan McHugh gets the ball like on his own 45 right in the middle of the pitch, and the whole centre of the pitch is wide open. And it's just a mistake. But it's gas, the mindset of everyone when that happened. We were like, we're in trouble here. Like,
yeah, I'm watching
if there's a team like Donegal at that time.
You're 11.
Didn't have the mindset. Kilmacud didn't have that mindset. They probably did to an extent, but they didn't go to complete panic and just start ripping fellas down.
Which they probably should have.
But
at that stage
Paddy,
of the game.
Paddy, I'm watching this here. Like, O'Sullivan's kicking it from his own 45. Like, you still have 7 or 8 players back, but you can just see the panic set in. You all start flying back here. Yeah.
Who scores the goal? Is it Ryan McHugh that actually scores it?
Yeah. McBurty to McHugh, gives a hand pass. McNeither sets up. Yeah, it's McHugh who scores it. It's one in the corner back. Could be Paddy McGrath that plays it across him. But yeah, that's interesting because you can just tell, you can sense this, you're 11 points to 5 up here, and you can just see the panic. You're so in control. And the panic. James, when I did that, put my fist up, you kind of scoffed. Did you hate that? Did you?
I'm sick of saying that. That meant just chill out for 5 minutes because you're not going to see the ball.
They're playing keep ball.
Lads, that was
what actually mean. Was it just keep ball?
It was just chill out. Like, let's just relax here.
We're slowing down the tempo.
Exactly. Not even slowing down. It was just, again, if you're looking at it, we were really experienced. We'd gone through this. We'd worked on it on the pitch for months and months and months. And we were an experienced team. We played in All-Ireland finals. We lost big games. We won big games. And we brilliant footballers. Even in our full back line, we had guys like Johnny Cooper, Keno, so like top-class players. Like, everyone knew we were going to keep the ball. Like, and that's what when I seen Crokes doing it, there's no way they're at that level. There's no way they're at that level. And that's where panic sets in. You see Donegal doing it in the most horrendous conditions in Markovich Park 3 weeks ago, and they're bringing the goalkeeper into it, and you're going, there's no way they've gone through this before. You can just see it. It's a high-risk strategy. It's a brilliant one if you pull it off right. But if you've players who are uncomfortable on the ball, if you're players who haven't gone through that scenario before, you haven't spoken about it as a team, it can go horribly wrong. I just got the sense that you could see Crokes, they were dicing with it.
Do you need all 15 players to be able
everyone
to
needs to be on the same line.
Everyone does, yeah. You can
Everyone
imagine.
needs to be on the
It's like a penalty shootout in soccer. Until you've been in the situation in the last minute, where everything is relying on you not doing the wrong thing. Right? Just don't give it away. Like, even if you get those words in your head,
it sounds easy.
Don't do the wrong thing. You are definitely going to do the wrong thing. Like, you have to be so mentally strong in that situation. And even in 19, when in the drawn Kerry Dublin final, before that final, we practiced it so much.
Who'd be doing that?
There was none of that. But
Games to get the ball, they just go like this in the corner.
Like, if it does come down to the last minute or 2 minutes, can we be comfortable enough?
Yeah,
to see it out. And it was fairly boring training, not to be fair, and you'd hate doing it, but it was important. But we did get that chance, and we couldn't keep it.
And when you say you did it loads, what do you mean by that? Like, are you saying weeks and weeks?
Well, from the semi-final to the final, like every night for like, instead of playing football, nearly we do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're the same scenario, but you're right, James. You can't prepare for it. Bear in mind, I remember this because it's quite a famous few minutes for our team looking back. We were down to 14 men.
Yeah.
Well, so Johnny had been sent off in with Clifford in the first. So we were down to 14 men and we were chasing it. And this was like, we didn't talk about it publicly at the time, but this was our kind of legacy. This was us going for 5 in a row and we were going to lose it. And there's just a desperation at that time. You get energy that you mightn't think you have. Kevin McMenamin, who wouldn't be renowned as the best tackler, ends up getting a turnover on David Moore, and I think he ended up running from the far corner of the Cusick stand and Canal End, sprinting over to tackle David Moore and around just in front of where the benches are in Croke Park, I think with Dermot Conley, and they end up turning him over. And it was like, and that ended up going over, and far side of the pitch, up the pitch, and Dean Rock kicks the equaliser, and we get the draw out of it. But that was just a raw desperation from us. That was everything was on the line for us. And we couldn't even prepare for that in training, because you do scenarios in training and things like that. And yes, that's fine. But when it's the All Ireland and there's 80,000 there and it's 5 minutes in injury time, and this is it, like it's a different energy. It's a difference.
Yeah.
It's very hard to prepare for. And that's what I mean. That's at the highest level. When you see it in a club game there, and you've seen the way Crokes were moving the ball around, I was not confident that they were going to be able. You always felt there was going to be an error, and just the way that error panned out, like I say, James, it probably was the worst thing you could do. Like, kick it to the stand, kick it dead, cause them a lead, or promoting it. But anything to kill the clock. Do not kick it to the middle of the pitch to the guy's chest, and he's off, and you're thinking, they are under pressure here. Somebody do something. Pull them down. Do anything.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen the celebrations coming out of Kilcoo, the wee village in Down, over the last few days. They've been up on Twitter and stuff. It's well worth checking out. They're loose, looks loose, but my God, this is like something that's been in the works for so long. I don't know if you've heard Conor Laverty's speech, if you've gone and listened back to it, but it's well worth. TG Carve tweeted it. It's well worth having a look at it. But it's an incredible kind of speech where he talks about where the club came from, the journey the group have been on, and what it means to them to be top of the mountain, as he put it. But he kind of pauses, and all of Croke Park is frozen as he calls on Mickey Moran to come up the stands. And Mickey has said very little over the last couple of years in the media or anything like that. He keeps the profile low, and Mickey eventually gets cajoled to go up. But Conor's like, I'm not going on with this speech until you get up here and lift the cup with us. So it's an amazing speech, James. When you're looking at that, right, there's a lot of clubs around the country who are going to be looking at that game, and Kilmacud Crokes, I'm sure, will be sitting down in a few months. They'll be sick, but they'll be sitting down and saying, we can get back there. They're not going to be sitting there saying, sure, you've got to win your county championship first. But a lot of clubs around the county are thinking, or the country are thinking, how can we get to Kilcoo's level? How can we get to that standard? When you were in Killarney watching your town neighbours do things like that in the 2010s, they were getting to All-Ireland Club finals in the mid-2000s. Were you thinking in Killarney Legion that you could get there, that you could get up those steps, that you could win the All-Ireland Club title? Did you ever feel like that?
I don't think so. I suppose we we were always so up against it with the Crokes. They always seemed to be on that upward trajectory in Killarney, you know, when they had some unbelievable teams. So before we could think about going anywhere, we had to win Killarney, you know, which was so difficult. But what it comes down to is mindset. If you can get everyone in the boat with the same mentality, but realistically, you have to give everything up for it. Like, I could see all the Kilcoo fellas were tweeting and they were doing interviews. They gave up their lives for the last couple of years to get there, and there's not many groups that will go to that extreme. You know, it has to be a special group, and it has to have special management, and it needs a spark or something. It needs something to drive that passion for them. And they smelt it and they went for it, and now they have it for the rest of their lives. But I mean, there's probably only a couple of teams in the country who could even have that sniff of it, you know?
Yeah.
But
like,
if I was to say what Kilmacud are going to do now, if they think about getting back to an All-Ireland final, they won't. Like, they have to go back to just next game territory. Because if they start looking too far ahead, and I know because when we've lost All-Ireland finals and we're thinking about going back to the final next year, as soon as you start thinking that, it's so dangerous, because you will miss loads of steps along the way. You just have to start again at the bottom and just go step by step, next game. And that's the only way back for them.
On the Crokes, Dr. Crokes, Killarney Legion split in Killarney, I hadn't realised it was quite so stark, the difference in dominance. I always had thought that it was, I suppose, a similar enough level of success over the years. Like, it's quite remarkable, the difference there. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way.
Sounds it.
You couldn't like, spit out it.
But like when I was
this is edited out.
But, you know, I wouldn't have kept. I barely understand Kerry County Club Championships as it is, but like in my head over the last 10 years, it always felt like Killarney Legion were in the mix for the county championship. Like, you had come close a couple. Am I right in saying that you come close a couple of times?
We did. We had a couple of very good years. We had Peter Keane was our manager in 2014 and 2015 with Legion.
Okay.
And we were always getting to club finals. There's only 8 clubs in Kerry, 8 senior clubs, which is very harsh, because the 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th best clubs in Kerry are just as good as the first 8, you know? So to win a club championship or county championship is very hard. But we got to the final in 2015 and we lost by a point in a replay after extra time.
Jeez.
And that was
Crokes?
No, we beaten the Crokes. We beat the Crokes one of those years in their own place. And then we lost to South Kerry, which would be another division. Brian Sheehan's crowd. He was kicking frees from 250 yards.
Half, like, yeah.
And
Brian Sheehan kicked 1-5 that day.
Yeah, we were 7 points up, and
they had Killian Young as well in South Kerry.
Yeah, they had a very strong team, but that was kind of we had a good team there, very good team, 14, 15, 16. And then we just we didn't do well last year, and we're down to intermediate now, so we're out of the top 8.
Did you ever get a sniff, Paddy, after 2011? Like, 2011 was such an important year for you. We spoke about it last year on the pod. You won Dublin. You went on to the Leinster final and you lost. But was it Gary Castle bet you by a point that day in the Leinster final?
Yeah.
Did you ever come close again after that?
Not really, no. We lost the final in 10 to Kilmacud. I think they won Leinster. I didn't win the All-Ireland. We won it in 11 and we lost the Leinster club final to Gary Castle by a point in this 2 minutes into injury time. We gave away a free. A lad kicked the ball from the half-back line and one of our lads came in about 4 seconds later and buried him with a shoulder for some reason. It was a free from where the ball landed.
Oh, Jesus.
And your man kicked it over and the ref blew it up and that was it. So we lost that. Gary Castle then, I think they lost the All-Ireland final to Cross McGann, bet them. We lost the semi-final in 12 to Kilmacud again. We were 7 points up at half-time and they beat us by 7 in the semi-final. So it was a second half collapse and we never got to a final again after that. So that was our group.
Okay.
We were in the mix, but the closest we got, was we didn't play well against Gary Castle, and we still probably could have won the game. We were big favourites going into that. We bet Port Leash actually in the semi-final in Parnell Park in a great game, and we're probably complacent going into the Leinster final, and we ended up losing it. It's such a long road to win your county, to then win the province, to then get back to the All-Ireland club final. And then for those guys, for them, and obviously Ballyhale, who obviously have won a lot of All-Irelands, to be within seconds of doing it, both teams in the hurling and football. It's a brilliant way to win it for Ballygunner and Kilcoo, who've been on their own journeys. But it's probably the harshest way to lose it. And as James has said, he's hit the name that you have to start from the very bottom the next season. You can't get carried away, and it's a difficult one. And I'll always remember my own experience of losing that Leinster club final in O'Connor Park in Tullamore. It was one of the hardest defeats I ever had, and I know a lot of lads in the British dressing room, because you just got that sense. It was like this was the opportunity.
Dr. Crokes go on to win the All-Ireland the following year, James.
He's just trying to do him here.
Legion.
I know.
We're going to start talking more about Legion, less about Dr. Crokes, please.
Okay. Best of luck to Killarney Legion this year. All right.
Did you ever take a side of Jimmy? Did you ever try and get you across?
Oh, did that ever happen? No.
Never. Huh?
Gooch tapped you up, did he?
No, it's caused by
Gooch got you one night at J.M. Reedy's there in the town.
They bloody relegated you last year.
I'll let you take the freeze.
They relegated us, yeah.
Oh, stop. We'll do that. We'll get into that again.
This podcast.
Okay. That's enough of that. Because the real reason we're here on episode 4 of the Football Pod, and I've been putting James under a bit of pressure there. It's not my job to put him under pressure this week. The listeners have got in touch in their droves. We've got over 150 questions in for our James O'Donoghue Ask Me Anything. We're not going to get to every single one of those questions. We're going to get to a good few of them. And Paddy, you might have a couple of questions up your sleeve as well for your co-host here. So we're going to get to that next, and then we're going to finish off the pod this week with a bit of a preview of some of the games this weekend. So we're looking forward to some of the big games this weekend, and one or two little fantasy shoutouts then as well. So you're listening to episode 4 of the Football Pod with Paddy Andrews and James O'Donoghue. You could hit subscribe wherever you're listening right now. If it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or you're on the OTB Sports app, make sure to hit subscribe. You can also leave a little rating if you want. We're going to be back right after this with the James O'Donoghue Ask Me Anything, where anything goes. All right, you're very welcome back to the Football Pod with Paddy Andrews and James O'Donoghue. We have got a lovely slot lined up here. It's called the Ask Me Anything with James O'Donoghue. He agreed to do it when he first signed his contract with Off the Ball, so he's got no choice in the matter now but to face up to it. James, I'm going to start you off with an easy one here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a couple of questions from our Instagram listeners. I got a couple of lengthy emails in, some stories that I could verify, some stories that I couldn't. So I'm going to put some of them to you and see what happens. But I'm going to start off here.
You got me to verify
with a really simple one, right? Keane Butler has been in touch with this one, as well as a few other lads. Ryan Groves wants to know as well. What are your favorite football boots, James O'Donoghue?
Favorite football boots? That's an easy one, but it has changed. I was always a big Predator man because of David Beckham. Since I was about 8, I was obsessed with Predators. And then I got to about 16, 17, stuck with him, but changed to Tiempos as soon as they came out.
Okay.
Nike Tiempos. By far the best boot in the market at the moment.
Yeah.
What year was that?
15.
14, 15.
You're wearing Adidas against us in 13, weren't you?
Yeah, Lethal Zones. I would give them a close second. They were a lovely boot as well.
How do you know that?
The Adidas boots, I just thought they went very plasticky. Nike kept up the leather with the Tiempos.
Nail on it. I wore Adidas the whole way up, Preds, and then 2015 moved to Nike, the Mercurials.
Oh,
yeah, no, the Mercurial Vapors.
Are these not soccer boots? Are these not real soccer boots?
They were, but they were like in Croker in the summer. Like they were so light. Like I was not what Nike were thinking of when they launched the Mercurial Vapors. But I liked them because I thought Adidas got really clunky. Adidas, like the Preds, they used to be slick, but the later ones were big heavy oaks, and they were grand in Castlebar in February and March. You wouldn't be wearing the Mercurials over there now in springtime in Connacht, but I changed. Quite a few of us did actually. A few lads were wearing the Nikes now towards the end. Johnny Cooper, Kilcoo was one as well. Cormac Costello. It was just in summer and Croker, they were like slippers going around. Like so.
Yeah,
it was the same. That's funny. Moved on to Nikes.
So the Nike Tempo was your favorite boot.
Nike Tempo,
and yours is the Nike Mercurials.
Yeah, just do it.
Okay. All right. I've been going with the
discount code at Nike.com.
PA15.
I've been very boring the last few years. I've been going with the World Cups.
Nah, get out. You're better than that.
Cup Mondials. No, that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years.
Maybe now savage boot. But you can wear Copas about 2 sizes too small because they stretch.
They do stretch. Yeah, they do.
World Cups, no.
No, well, the World Cup's more for the winter. You kind of need them.
Yeah,
you kind of need them in the winter. Okay, this isn't about me. This is about James O'Donoghue. Next question, James. This is from John. Right, so we did a bit of tweaking to this. So John tweeted us the other day, and he had a question. What is your fantasy 7-a-side team in Gaelic football? So John has a couple of rules here. He said it has to be a player from the year 2000 onwards that you've seen and you remember. You don't have to have played with them or against them. Now, I've tasked Paddy with this as well, so I'm going to hear Paddy's in a minute. So I want to hear what your fantasy 7-a-side team is. So what we're thinking here is a goalkeeper, 2 defenders, a midfielder, 2 forwards. That's 6. And then you can pick what your 7th player is and let us know where you want to go.
Okay.
Let's hear.
So I went with no Kerry because I would be biased. So I left all Kerry out.
Right.
Of course, there would be lots of Kerry contenders. Mm-hmm. But I said, for fairness, I won't go with that. Okay. But I do have 2 dubs to start. So in goals.
Me?
Paddy, you're not cornerback.
What? Jesus Christ, I got excited there. Sorry.
I've Cluxon in goals. And especially for a 7-a-side team, he plays outfield club, doesn't he?
Yeah.
6.
For the boys. Or do you play centre back?
6 for Parnell, I think, yeah.
And you'd have to say he is the best goalie of all the time. Yeah. So he was very hard to not put in. So that was an easy one. Cluxon in goals I have.
Okay.
And then I have someone we've mentioned already today, James McCarthy, who is just a phenomenal athlete. He looks like a warrior mentally. He always turns up on the big day. I just have a great time for him. I think he's a savage operator. And he'll get a few scores as well. If you only have 2 at the back, I think he'll come up for a few points.
Very important.
Next to him, I have surely the unluckiest player to ever play, and it's Lee Keegan. Like, how that man doesn't have an All-Ireland medal is cruel.
Yeah.
Because every single big game, he turns up with a point to turn the tide, or a goal, or an unbelievable tackle. He's never beaten defensively. He's always up with his man, and he always contributes on the scoreboard. He's an all-time for me in fairness. I have a great time for Keegan. So we've McCarthy and Keegan at the back.
Do you ever get man-marked by Keegan, no? Because Keegan did take on a couple of man-marking jobs, but more so around 16, 17, 18, 19, he more so turned into that.
I marked him for maybe 20 minutes 2 or 3 times. And
you marked him. Oh, that's I like how that went. You marked him, okay.
Yeah. I was chasing back after him. No, I was pointing to fellas.
When was that?
Pass him on.
No, he even as a marker, he could play you from behind because he was fast enough. And if he played you from the front and you got it, he had the pace to recover. So he kind of had both things there, and he was always very physical. So I must say I like Keegan.
Okay.
I'm going for an attacking option. Michael Murphy, Donegal.
You're bending the rules here a little bit, putting Michael Murphy in midfield.
No. He plays out there. And he played all his under 21s midfield.
Okay.
And he'll score just as much. We had the argument about Rian O'Neill, obviously. He'll kick points from midfield, but I would rather have him inside. But just for this, I have him midfield.
I'm sure you can let him ghost in for 15 minutes at a time if you want.
He can. Now, the 2 fellas I have inside, I don't know, would they be tracker backers? But the first fella is Galway, and I saw him live in 2008 against Kerry, but an absolute masterclass. Do you know what it was?
Michael Meehan.
Michael Meehan.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
It was sensational. We had a minor game. We played Offaly in the minors, and Barry John Walsh got, I'd say, he got 4 goals and 10 points. I'd say for a minor team, he was going to be the next big thing that time. And we got the bus up to Croke Park to see Kerry and Galway. And it was torrential.
Yeah,
it was shocking weather. It was not a day for good forwards. Do you know, like, or well, not saying that, but for skills, it was a difficult day. And I think he got 10 points.
Oh, he did something outrageous like that.
Galway got like 116 or something. He got 10.
There's shocking YouTube footage of that game. There's no good footage of it, I don't think.
Yeah, which is surprising because it was a high-profile game at the time. It was billed as like one of the best games ever.
There was flooding outside. Jones's Road flooded. It was like rain. Yeah. There was big issues outside. We played Tyrone next day.
And it was beautiful.
Rain, yeah.
And it was beautiful.
Tyrone hammered us.
Sorry, lads. The game is up and full on YouTube now in the last year, so it's there now.
Yeah, that was a classic game.
Be going back to
Kerry tried a couple of fellas on him as well, and he did the business on all of them.
And like Meehan was injuries caused him serious issues throughout his career. But like
you say with Lee Keegan being one of those unlucky players, and I get that in the sense of winning all Ireland. Meehan is surely up there as well. Like I remember he was on that Jarlath's team and he won 221 All Irelands. He destroyed Dublin in an All Ireland or 21 final in 2002 with Galway. They won it again, and himself and Sean Armstrong were inside, and they scored 5 or 6 goals between them in the All Ireland final.
Yeah,
he won the All Ireland club with Caltra in 2004 against the Gaelic, and Mark O'Shea was marking him again. Like he had an unbelievable record up to senior, and this guy was going to be the absolute. Like Michael Meehan was one of the greats. Like, and once he kind of hit senior, injuries wrecked him. That's where that Kerry game stands out. I remember Jimmy as well because it's one of the only really times you see him at senior where he showed what he could do, and he was just his ankles and heart went out to him. But he, talent-wise, off the charts. Off the charts.
But he played so aggressively, like in his movements. Even he was so powerful that he'd sprint, stop, turn, sprint, horse a fella out the way. He's almost the type of fella who would pick up injuries just from the way he played. And
there's a physicality there, yeah.
One of a left leg. Do you remember the free he got against Cork off the ground when it was 10 pounds on the line?
Iconic.
Yeah.
So he is not. I just think that he's an iconic player in fairness to him.
You mentioned a man there, Barry John Walsh. We'll come back to him another day. I have to ask you about him. What happened there? Brother Tommy, he was one of the next big things coming, wasn't he?
Tommy's brother, was he?
Tommy's brother, yeah. They were both Savage around the time. And Barry John was on the panel in 2009. He was getting game time.
He came on in 9 in Championship, yeah.
Yeah, and so he won the All Ireland, but he went traveling then to Chicago. He's still in the States.
Is he still in the States?
Okay. Got him. What happens?
Yeah,
it happens. Yeah.
Great teammate, great player. Savage, left leg as well.
Okay.
A couple of me and left.
Last forward.
I 4 lefties in the team actually. 4 out of 7. Ooh.
Jeez.
Who is your final forward?
I have a fella who he was always my favorite player. When I was watching football, if this fella was ever on, I was watching. He had a bit of everything, and it is Owen Mulligan.
Oh, class. Mugsy.
And again, sometimes it doesn't, like an iconic score or a performance does do it for you, like, and that goal against Dublin, like I could watch it 100 times on loop. It's just sensational. How the lads bought the 3 dummies.
Well, hey, what does Patter ever say about it?
I think Patter was the third one he done me.
Yeah. Patter.
Or the second. Sorry, Paul Casey's the third one, I think. Patter was the first or the second one, yeah.
I have this theory.
Funny story on that, lads. You're talking about raffles. And if Muggsy's listening, I don't know if he is or not. I have that jersey in this house.
Have you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Number 12, the Bank of Ireland Football Championship jersey. Patter swapped it with him. And I actually meant to say to him, I think I've definitely bumped into Muggsy in town on a few nights. And I was like, I have that. Patter had given it to me. They swapped after that. It was the drawing game. And the Tyrone obviously won the replay and won the All Ireland that year. But I have that jersey in this house somewhere. It's up in the attic, I'd say.
There's hardly any peroxide blonde streaks on the rant like that, is
No,
it?
it's the old school ones, like really baggy. Like
Baggy.
there must have been jersey swimming on it. I must get it back to him because I'm sure he's or on Tyrone. That would be a big thing. Obviously, it's an iconic score. Like, but yeah, there you
But even the commentary on that goal was unreal as well.
Darren Maloney.
Yeah,
it was.
Darren Maloney's down him a double. Like,
yeah, it's iconic.
He was the most excited man in the stadium.
Yeah, I think he's a Dublin fan. Like, there, come on, like, give us a break.
He settled down. He was in front of goal. He was after throwing 3 dummies, and he still came up with the finish roof of the net.
He buries it by Cluxton.
Yeah,
he buries it by St. Cluxton. So
it's like Higgins in the FA Cup semi.
I've a theory. Kenny Cunningham is a colleague of ours and off the ball who'd be off and on, and I have a theory that Kenny's face appears in some of the greatest goals ever scored in Premier League history. Paulo Di Canio's goal for West Ham, you know, the scissor chop.
Yeah, scissor kick.
Kenny's face, it goes over Kenny's shoulder. David Beckham's wonder goal from the halfway line. Kenny Cunningham's on the pitch that day. Tony Yeboah's strike that bounces off the crossbar and goes in. Kenny Cunningham freezes by his shoulder. I swear to God. But now I'm starting to think that Paddy Andrews possibly bore witness to some of the greatest scores ever as well. Like Morris Fitz' sideline, he's on the field in 0-1, isn't he?
He's in front of Morris Fitz, yeah.
He's in front of Morris Fitz.
He gives him a great line for Morris Fitz to kick it over.
Mugsy dummies him for the goal. I'd probably have to dig out another one for it to be an actual proper conspiracy. But yeah,
there's a few, yeah.
There you go. James, final player. Now this is the important one. Where do you pick your 7th player? Where do you put him?
I'm putting him top of the D.
Defensively or forward?
No, up front.
Up front.
But this fella was a roamer, and he was. If you're saying it's a wild card position, this fella was the definition of a wild card.
Mark McHugh.
McDonald. Kerry McDonald.
Oh,
Tommy, come on, you're better than this.
I knew.
He's savage.
Hold on, in the 7-a-side, like, it's a smaller pitch. Like, his 50-yard outside of the left wouldn't be as useful, I don't think, in a game like that. Did you ever play the Croke Sevens?
No.
Did you ever play the Kilmacud Sevens in All Ireland weekends? We never played in it either. They never invited Bridget anymore. I think the clubs had around, like, but it always looked class. Like, is it 21 to 21 or is it
a great idea? I think it's
a big field anyway for 7-a-side. It's hard work.
Jesus.
Kieran McDonald, he's the wild card.
He's not doing any tracking back. Nor is Al Mulligan.
Yeah, but what you do is you give them the point and then you score a goal in your attack. So
Did you see McDonald playing the charity game a few weeks ago?
Yeah, that's probably why he was on my mind.
Okay. Sensational.
Rolls Royce.
Yeah,
great fella as well. I never played against him, not that old, but
so how many left?
Bumped into him in St. Clair's in DCU. I think we were training with Dublin and Mayo. The development squad was up. I think Mayo were playing under 16s or something. Playing Dublin under 16s in one of the pitches. So we'd finished training and went over and just had a look and see what the story was. And there he was, looking the coolest man in town, like, and was chatting over a few minutes and just like, it is like all our age, similar age. Like, he was an icon. Like, we were growing up watching GAA and he was just a superstar. Like, and it's just a great fella. Like, for a 5-minute conversation, I was like, walked away. Couldn't have been a sounder fella. What a player! Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, legend. I've got 2 dubs. I have 2 Mayo. I have a Tyrone, a Galway, and a Donegal.
I like that spread. I think that's a quality team.
No, obviously it would have been 7 Kerry if it was real.
I have 7 dubs in mine.
Let's hear you, Paddy.
I put myself in my own team. Can I put myself?
Did you? Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Up front.
I didn't fail to get a game at all, but Jim was the coach. So mind anyone else.
So, James, you're the manager of your team, and you're going up against Paddy's team. Let's hear it, Paddy.
Right. Give it.
Kilcoo and goal, obviously.
Okay.
For it. My 2 defenders were McGeaney.
Oh.
Kerry McGeaney. He was actually probably underrated as a footballer. He played with Fina up here in Dublin for years. He used to play midfield for the Fina, and he was like nearly McDonald. He's outside of the left, and he would be pinging balls in. Yeah, unbelievable. And I don't know if you've really seen it as much with Armagh. Remember watching him because Bridget's and the Fina would have a big rivalry back then when he was playing. The Fina won 3 championships in a row, and they J.O. and Desi inside. Desi Farrell was in the front forward, and McGeaney would just be like launching these 50, 60-yard passes in. It was unbelievable, but in the 7-a-side thing, you're not getting by McGeaney.
No one's getting by McGeaney. No chance.
So I've him, and then the man beside him I have, again, for specifically 7-a-side, Jack McCaffrey. because you've got no chance catching this fella in a 7-a-side. He's hard enough to catch 15 on 15, but in the spaces of a 7-a-side, it's like, McGeady, you hold forward here, I'm going. So I'd have McCaffrey in, he'd be a handful. Midfield, I'd have Fenton. I think Fenton.
He's going all Dublin here, isn't he?
You're not going all Dublin, but I'll give you a reason.
You're on 4 dubs already because McGeady.
Caesar played his football in Dublin.
I don't think McGeady would be happy being called a Dublin, to be honest. I'd have more dubs, don't worry, I told you. Fenton is, I think, the best midfielder since 2000. Darrell O'Shea is up there as well, but again, specifically with sevens, Fenton's an animal. His athleticism is off the charts. My forwards were, I needed someone really fast. I went for speed with the space. And the only one that came to mind, I could be wrong here, Shane Walsh was in the mix. I think his decision-making could annoy some of those teammates. Darren O'Sullivan from Kerry.
Class.
I just think class player, and boy, God, he will be at his peak. I know he had a couple of knocks and injuries and stuff. He was just lightning. And there's nothing worse if you're a defender than someone who just has electric pace and their space. It's like you're up against it. The other forward I had with him was actually Con O'Callaghan.
Okay.
And I find Con very similar to how you described Michael Meehan. Like, when he gets the ball, he's a savage tackler. So again, he'd suit a 7th game. But he nearly plays like a hurler. Like, he's an unbelievable hurler. Like, you see the success he had with Kula.
Tommy Walsh.
In his hands, he's so hard to stop. Like, he's just an absolute bulldozer, and he goes for goals.
Yes.
Like, I think he'd be a perfect. I think he's nearly a perfect 15s player, but he'd be a perfect 7s player. And then
come here. How would Con do with James McCarthy marking him?
I don't think they were always on the first team in training, so I don't think they ever had to mark each other. That will be phenomenal stuff. The way you've described Macker, Jimmy, is spot on. Like, he's an animal. Like, he's loved by, obviously, supporters, but by his teammates as well, because there's no nonsense. It's like, right, who are we playing today? And let's go and do it. Like, on the front foot all the time. Whatever, and we would have used him a couple of times. He's an unbelievable athlete, obviously, and he's still going. And I think, like, you're talking about Dublin's greatest ever players, and our team, obviously, the success we've had. Cluxton's probably always going to be, you feel, number one, the most iconic. But you guys like Burno and Dermot Connolly and guys like that who are massive fan favourites. But like, amongst the players, like, Macker's arguably like number one, like him and Cluxton. Like.
Really? Okay.
He's still going now. And that's like, bear in mind, Dublin's challenges now. You have Macker and Con still to come back into the team now. So that's the kind of level I put them at. How good they are. And I'm sure they're delighted that they're in my 7th team, my imaginary 7th team.
Where did you pick your number 7th player? Because this is an interesting one.
I was actually going to go with Macker, but I thought, geez, that's Jimmy put him in his team.
I can't think.
I'd probably go Lee Keegan, yeah. I just think
no. These teams are going up against each other. They're going up against each other. So we're going to need.
So I can't have Keegan.
You can't have another dub as well. You have too many dubs in there.
Who else was just taking Kerry?
But I like the way you're thinking. You're thinking of playing an extra defender to negate James.
See, I'm leaving McGeady and Cluxton to hold forward, and everyone else is just go and attack. Who else? I'm trying to think from another county. Mayo.
Who's your second defender?
McCaffrey and McGeady. McCaffrey's just going forward. Tyrone.
So you went kind of to actually win this match, right?
I'm specifically going for the.
You went with your favorite players.
I'm taking this really seriously.
How are you going to sell out this stadium? These are
okay. So you want a flair player? My last player. Who was your roaming? You, Kerry McDonald.
Yeah.
So you're looking for someone box office from the noughties onwards.
Yes. Paddy got the shout very late, so I think he's making it up as he's going here.
I'm making this up on the spot. It's high pressure. You
can pick a Kerry footballer. You know, you are allowed to pick a Kerry footballer here. Like
if you put Moynihan in, like, was Moynihan played 01, yeah. When did Moynihan finish? 04?
Moynihan was football year 2000, still playing 2005 or 6, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
Put Moynihan in,
He played in 5.
Who's he thought of in Kerry now. Like
well, Moynihan's one of the greatest, isn't he?
The greatest.
But even now that he's gone 20 years now, probably 15 years, say.
Oh, fellas, still, he's talked about as an unbelievable leader. That's his thing. Like, he just turned the games himself.
But I get the leadership bit, like, but he was a phenomenal player.
He was.
Like, is he respected, like, technically how he played, like?
Yeah, in the air, he was outstanding. For a small fella, he's not big. He's not 6 foot. I think he's maybe 5'10", and he would outfield the best of them. And he put in savage work into that as well.
Did he?
And any ball.
Is he still playing with Clem Fesk in the Intermediate Championship now? You're marking him. What's he doing? Is he involved with Kerry?
No. What?
Is he underage or? He's never done media stuff. I haven't heard much from him.
He was definitely involved. 20s wise. Yeah, he's on the ticket, isn't he?
He was on the ticket for Stephen Stack's management team to go against Jack O'Connor.
The dream.
The All-Star selection.
The dream ticket, yeah.
I think they came up with that team like this.
That's going to get in.
Right, let's move on.
Get all your shares.
Who's your seven?
No, his seven is Moynihan. He's taken Moynihan, and I think that's two quality teams. I actually think, Paddy, you'd be quite good at FIFA Ultimate Team, the way you're picking your team there with the speed of McCaffrey and Darren. You know, it'd be very difficult to beat.
Specifically for sevens, Darren Sutton's a brilliant player, but I don't think he's one of the best forwards in the last 20 years. Like, he's a brilliant player, but he'd work for sevens. But I'm sure we're missing some obvious ones. Joyce, he was still playing. The Porrick Joyce, man of the match in the All-Ireland final in 01.
Yes, he must kick 10 points in 01. And
Joyce, your lovely Mead. The last time Mead were relevant.
I wasn't going to mention Mead today, but there you go. Okay, look, you got your team. You're taking Moynihan. Okay. I'm going to give you Moynihan, right? And that's a good team. James, this can be quick. What was your go-to pre-match meal? And there's a good few questions in about this. I'm going to name the people.
Who asked that question?
There's a few people who've asked that question.
What's your favourite colour?
Tommy's question.
Ronan Flanagan asked that question.
Chicken and pasta.
From Cavan, not the Ronan Flanagan. Who's playing?
No, a different Ronan Flanagan. Chicken and pasta. And would you make it yourself, or would?
Chicken and pasta. That answer is.
I get it ordered.
Preston Keating had the exact same question. A lot of people are interested in what you eat, lads.
Pre-match meal. I'd eat as much as I could, to be honest.
Would you?
Yeah, I know some fellas. They like to feel kind of empty.
Yeah,
I'd eat as much as I could until maybe 4 hours before the game, and then I'd leave it off.
So the game is at 2 o'clock. Game's at 2 o'clock. What are you doing?
Game's at 2 o'clock. Right. So I'd eat a dinner at probably 10:30. And then I'd eat porridge, a massive bowl of porridge, banana, berries at 7.
7, and it's the first.
Toast probably as well.
And what do you have for has descended into farce?
What do you have for dinner at half? What do you have for dinner at 10:30?
I'd have chicken and pasta, no problem.
Okay.
But sure, when it's conditioned into you, no bother.
I used the exact opposite, Jimmy. I used to hammer the food the day before the game.
Yeah.
And then I'd eat very little the day of games. Hydrate, that'd be because I remember when the first carb loading came in. This was the thing, like carb loading came in to GAA. We all started getting really professional. And the first couple of games, I ate the arse out of myself the day of games. I'd be going out, I'd be bursting out the shorts, going out playing the match. And it just didn't work for me. I would have then got a handle on it. I was like, listen, I'd eat loads the day before, get your energy, and then we'd eat very little the day of games. Just hydration, that was it.
Yeah.
And found the energy from the day before, I was ready to rock.
Okay. Would you have little snacks and stuff, or would you be
very little? Like
really, yeah,
very little. Yeah, genuinely. Yeah.
Would you eat a breakfast?
I'd have a brekkie, an old bowl of porridge.
Pops or
I'd usually have snack box the night before. Dominoes in the morning. No, I'd have porridge in the morning. That'd probably be it for the day. See, we were always top billing with the Dubs. We were always on the later games. We were never on early. We were
you were later. Yeah, because the 2 o'clock game is tricky. Sorry, when I was so appalled by you having dinner at 10:30, I thought you were having a roast or something like that. But no, okay, chicken and pasta.
Sunday roast,
chicken pasta, tomato kind of sauce. Yeah, we did it so many times. It was
garbage, wasn't it?
It was not. Yeah,
you never even think of it like James O'Donoghue, how did you balance everything while playing Intercounty? Fairly open-ended question. It's a good question though. I
suppose it's hard. I didn't really, definitely. Sometimes I didn't. I put all my eggs in the Intercounty basket. Really? Yeah.
What do you mean by that? This is from Shane Lowe, this question, by the way.
I suppose nothing else mattered at all. Like, and it was a dangerous way to be, but I just couldn't concentrate on anything else. I was just obsessed, like, with playing for Kerry and doing the right things that way, that I found it hard to motivate myself in anything else. And I suppose that's why it was difficult then when you have to give it up, because you realize that if you're not getting the rewards from it being your number one completely, then you have to pack it then. But I suppose it's a game at the moment for college students.
Do you think?
Who have the time and the breaks, the recovery, the downtime. I think that they're best set for it. If you can stay in college for as long as you can, try and get your degree, stay on. Get your masters. Like all the dubs, it was DCU, they were in.
Hold on a second.
They were in course after course. They were in diplomas and this and that.
Hold on. I would challenge this personally.
But no, I if you are in college, I think it's your best time to really improve yourself as an intercounty footballer, because you have the most time in your hands. Second career, I would say, that helps is teaching, or one of those where you have the summers off. And then you can kind of battle until May or June, and then you have the downtime to really focus in. But yeah, it was one of the things that I definitely.
When you're coming towards the end, and I suppose, I don't know how long that end was when you're thinking, my number one isn't paying off for me here. How much of a stress or pressure is it then to go, right, how do I line up how do I get on top of career? Are you chasing then? Like, are you in your mid-20s then and you're looking around and going, you know, I should be maybe 2 or 3 years on? Or were you able to get that? Yeah. Were you able to kind of bring that along?
No, I was there definitely, where I was kind of thinking, yeah, I have to sort my career out now as well. Just because I put too many eggs in that basket, really. So if I was to give anyone advice, it would be definitely align the two properly. But I mean, if your football's not going well, you blame work. you find something to blame. It's never something easy to fix. But I hate going on about injuries, but I was leaving work at 5 o'clock, say, to get into training at, say, 5:45, to strap 2 shoulders, 2 ankles. I was getting strapped for an hour, and then out onto the field, like rushing out for a warm-up. Even the anxiety of rushing around, you're not in the right mindset. So like that was on my mind as well. So I definitely didn't get settled with the two, working the two, you know.
Yeah, just like it's there's so much that goes into it. Like, there's so much prep, there's so much that goes into those 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, because it's a short span when you get to play intercounty football. Paddy, you were shaking your head there once or twice. What was your experience?
I think there was a misconception around the Dublin team that we were all doing feck all and just playing. Like, I'm looking at 2 of our best defenders, Michael Fitzsimons and Jack McCaffrey, are doctors. That's whatever, like, we're going through finance and business and things like that. There's exams and there's challenges with that. It's very difficult to become a doctor and play intercounty football, and the 2 lads were that. Keane O'Sullivan is generally considered like the Lord of Tax, which with PwC, and he's with BDO now as a director. Again, phenomenally difficult exams. And I remember we would be coming training, and in some cases lads going back to the office and things like that. So there was a kind of conception or misconception with Dublin that we were all spoofers and we just played ball, and that definitely wasn't the case. And I know from my own, you're looking now, Owen Merchant, Conor O'Callaghan are in PwC doing exams and tax and advisory in there. Like, from my own experience, I joined Davy out of college, out of DCU, and was straight into exams there. The QFA exams, which look, they're handy enough, they're not too bad. But then was straight into the CFP, or financial planning exams. They are difficult. There's a lot in that, lectures in the evenings and stuff. So you're balancing that. Then I was doing well in Davy and kind of rising up through the ranks there, and then you're dealing with clients and stuff. There's a massive responsibility in your job. You're looking after people's money, which is an unbelievable responsibility you have. So you can't turn around and go, well, I have a match. I'm heading off training and things like that. You've got to, no, they don't give a, like they hope it goes well for you, particularly if your clients aren't dubs either, which a lot of my clients wouldn't have been. They don't care. So there's responsibility with that. And then in my role now with Metis Ireland, there's probably a bit more than that. And that's, I don't think I'd have been able to do the role I'm doing now in terms of managing a team and managing a lot of work in the financial planning and stuff like that, and playing intercounty as well. But
how did you align the stride, the drive for five with, like, that sounds like a stressful enough work environment.
But I tell you what, and it's funny, for me, I didn't know any different. It was always in my, I don't know whether it's my personality or whatever it was. It's hard to put a finger on it, but I never wanted to not work or have time off. Maybe I don't like kind of sitting around idle or not doing anything or anything like that. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's just, for my personality, it was always, and the environment I was in Davies, obviously a pretty big company, and there's big demands on you. And then exams and stuff like that. If you want to progress, you kind of have to have the academics behind you, and that's part of your development. I kind of just got into that routine where that was just through my career. I didn't really know any different, so it was I didn't see it as a massive strain. I'd no spare time, but I was fine with that. I'd nearly get in trouble if I had spare time. So I just accepted that I was working, I was studying, and then I was playing with Dublin.
And was football an outlet? Was football a release?
No, because football was heavy going as well. Football was full on. But look, I the same as Jimmy's saying there, and a few of us coming from town out to DCU for training, and they're long days, but that was it. Yeah, you like catching up with the lads, but it was fun. Dublin was a full-on environment as well. Like you're going from one high performing environment in a business or an organisation, and you were going into Dublin, and there was no foot off the gas there either.
Yeah.
And that was it. But I just found that you get into that routine, and you're always hectic and you're always busy. But that suited me, and like it mightn't have suited every player, and some players would prefer having spare time and things like that. But for me, that suited me, and I know there was quite a few of us with that team. Like the examples I've given, like Keane and Jack and stuff like that, where it was high pressure with exams and work and stuff like that. But that was also a focused the mind. Like there was no leakage, there was no time wasted. It was when you're with Dublin, and when you're doing your job, you're doing your job. And the biggest thing I'd say, we were all fortunate, and I think this goes for any intercounty players or intercounty teams out there. Our employers were very supportive of us, and Jim Gavin was always unbelievably understanding with exams and work commitments. Like say, no one dared to take the mick and say, I have an exam, I can't go train or things like that. But if there was times where it was, listen, I have something on, we have a conference or we have a big client thing on this evening, I can't make training or it'll be a bit late, or I have an exam at the weekend and I need to study. He was always, without fail, that work-life, that balance. If you have something on professionally that you need to do, go and do it and then come back. Because if you try and manage both and you have an exam in the morning and you're meant to play a match that evening, you're just not in the right space. You won't do well in either of them. Whereas we were very fortunate. Jim was always massively supportive, and we were fortunate that our employers kind of supported as well, because there was a benefit for them.
Yeah.
Like with PwC or Davies, whoever, that we've so-and-so who's on the Dublin team, and we were winning all Irelands and things like that. So there's benefits for them, but
yeah,
I always prefer to be busy. Definitely. That suited me.
Yeah, and it strikes me as well that like it must be a very individual thing as well. Like, because when you do look across the country and different circumstances and different squads, you may have managements that are, in slightly different places, or you may have teams whose aspirations are slightly different, teammates and squads that are slightly different. You've got players traveling back from one end of the country to the other to make training. Thinking about it, like logically, what James is saying, like if you do want to become an intercounty footballer, the smart move is staying in college for as long as you can in a lot of these cases. Like,
a caveat for us, and I know this is a benefit, and you probably didn't think of this time, we were all working in Dublin City Centre. Dublin's a small county geographically, that if we were literally, we'd finish work at maybe 4:30 and we'd be out to DCU for 5:30 to get ready for training. I know it's different. I know that's not every county has that luxury, particularly look in Kerry. If you're working in Killarney and you boys are training, or if you're down in Dingle and you have to come up.
yeah,
We were lucky in that regard. So that did suit us, but I accept that before people start giving out.
Dingle's like another time zone from some parts of
Beautiful
Kerry.
down there. No?
Yeah, no, it is.
Where did you train, Jimmy? Were you was Curran's up and running? Or did you train at the Cheryl Stadium?
We've been in Kearns, I suppose, 4 years in Kearns, and before
that year round, the whole season you're there.
It was at the start. It was kind of winter training in Kearns, because we had the lights, and then as soon as the nights got longer, we go into the stadium in Killarney, and that was like the beginning of the serious stuff. Then, Killarney, it's nice to get that switch over.
Do you like that? Yeah.
There was a buzz. We were to say we used to train in a place called Innisfails, out in Balgriffin, but like a grim enough spot. And it was meant. Look, the club were great for giving us the facilities, but as players, it was a hard place to go. January, February, March, and like Jim would have put us there intentionally, so there was no airs and graces. But it was, you used to go back, finish the league, go back to the club, and then come back for the championship campaign into DCU. There's no lights in DCU, so you couldn't even train in the winter. But exactly what you're saying, Jimmy, when you arrived into Fitzgerald Stadium and we got back to DCU, it was like a new season. It was like the summer's here. It's championship time, and the buzz was different. Buzz was completely different. It was an energy, completely different energy. Yeah.
I have a quick one as well here. Favorite away ground, James. I'm not going to ask Paddy because he never played outside Croke Park or Dublin.
Parnell Park. No.
My favorite away grounds are all Munster.
Really? Yeah.
For Mullingar has an unbelievable surface. Nice tight field. Supporters kind of on top of you. That is a very nice feel to that stadium. Nice atmosphere up there.
You can aim for the Dunstores sign.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It does. It closes it in a bit. It makes that scoring goal a nicer one to kick into. It's strange, but it does. But then you've got in Munster, you've got Parky Queeve is always savage surface. And now it's obviously an unbelievable stadium now as well. You've got Ennis, Cusack Park and Ennis as beautiful surface. We played loads of minor games there. Again, tight, kind of nice atmosphere there. And then Semple Stadium in Thurles is like carpet. It's the closest surface to Croke Park, I reckon.
Okay.
So it's and you've the Gaelic grounds, of course, another away one.
Hold on, are you judging your love of a ground by the amount of joy you had on it?
I'd say that plays a part, though. Yeah,
it probably does. Yeah, but no, I'm not. I would go with favorite away ground. I'd say Ennis.
Really? Okay, that's an interesting one. Okay,
because it's so enclosed. You don't want a stadium where there's 100 people up there and 100 people somewhere else. Everyone is on top of you there. There's a nice noise and the surface is savage.
Cool. Your favorite ever score? Sorry, I better shout out the people who've asked these questions. Hold on. You think of your favorite ever score down. I'll get the messages here.
Paddy, you go. Your favorite ever score?
Favorite ever score?
With the right from the
right. Did you pick out the score against Donegal that time on the right wing underneath the queues?
Oh yeah.
Ryan McHugh says to you, how did you score that?
Yeah, I was in the Cusack stand when I kicked it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Ryan McHugh and Paddy McGrath were going to take the ball off me imminently. So I go, exactly what you're saying to me. He was on the right, from the right. And I go, I'm pulling the trigger here. And somehow it went over the bar, 2016, I think. Yeah.
It's Garrod Morrissey asking that question about the favourite score. So, well, do you have one, James?
I'd say my favourite score is probably the goal against Mayo in 14 that Donaghy caught to draw the game, just because of the timing and we were gone. Like we were down and out without O'Donoghue, and he came on and created that moment. And it was lucky with the finish because Henley just dived. Like I was just catching it and putting it onto my foot and trying to connect. It just squirmed under his arm. And
because he come out, he made himself big, didn't he?
Did it hit the post? I'll go in.
No, it just snuck in under him.
Oh.
But when I got it, I was thinking, will I jink it? And I don't know why, but I just said, no, just
What do you mean by jink it? Like dummy?
Yeah.
You didn't have time for a dummy.
No, I didn't. I would have absolutely had a mare if I did, yeah. I wouldn't have been able to get
out. Kids would have taken their head off.
Yeah,
you might have got a penalty, but you'd have been unconscious.
Yeah, but yeah, that was a nice one.
So Moran gets it. He's down by the managers under the Hogan on the right-hand side of the pitch. He steps his man outside of the right boot ball to O'Donoghue. You're there. You've sniffed the goal chance. You're under Kieran. Does he palm it down to you or does he catch it? No, he catches it and he slips it to you. He's in complete control.
He does all the work. Like that was the great thing about playing with O'Donoghue. He'd do everything for you and he just wants you to finish it off for him.
That's class.
So yeah, and so he wasn't having a great year at the time. He was picking up a lot of injuries and he came in that day and it was basically save us. Just save us. And he did. And he went on, had a great game in a replay and scored the goal in the final.
It was those 3 games. It was the impact he made. That was Eamon O'Brien with the question about the favorite score you've ever scored. And Carl Ferreter was asking, what was your favorite goal? So you answered 2 and 1 there. And Orla from the sideline live had a question. And I'm just wondering, did it happen in that moment? Did you ever enter a state of flow or some slow motion during a game in your career? You often hear athletes talking about time slowing down at certain points. So, golfers saying it, or, maybe footballers saying it at certain times. Did that ever happen to you where you're in the groove, you're in that state of flow?
Not that exact thing, but I suppose there is kind of a stage if you're playing at your best, or at least even if you think you're playing at your best, you mightn't be, but even if you have that mentality where I'm at my best here, you are more calm. And as a forward, I suppose when you're calm, your decision making is better. So it's like a circle, it's just the calmer you are, the more confident you are, the better decisions you make, which makes you calmer, more confident, better decisions. And if you can keep on that cycle, it just everything leads to the next thing, and I suppose I probably got into that groove a couple of times in my career, but that's the mind frame you want to be in. But it is all confidence, really.
We have a lot of questions in about the Keith Higgins battle back in 2014. We'll look at it again in more depth when Kerry play Mayo in a couple of weeks. But you were on it that day, like both days that day. Like, and the best thing about those battles is that Higgins dispossesses you. Like I know you rack up sensational scores, but there's times in that game where Higgins feels like he's on top. Or did it ever feel like that in it? Or did you just feel like, keep giving me the ball here? Like,
yeah, no, it definitely did. He was on top, but
was he?
I suppose the thing as a forward, again, you only need one chance to ruin his 70 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, and you have to have that mentality all the time. I only one ball here and you're in trouble again, So I think if you have that, you can stick at it. But there was times, all right, and it happened to me in a lot of games that I'd be beat out to a ball, or I'd be, I might make a mistake or whatever, and you just have to reset and go again. But the way that we were playing with Kerry at the time was you didn't have any time to feel sorry for yourself or to get in your own head.
Why? Because Maher and Moran were bombing it into you.
Yeah, it was just coming. We were kicking so much ball. It was just constant kick passing. It was unreal to play an inside line where you knew the ball was going to be kicked into you so often. And we worked so hard on it that you knew that, fair enough, I dropped that one, but I'll get to the next one. But we had Pádraig Corkin was our, he ends up being our coach with Kerry, but he was on water at the time. And every mistake I made, he'd run in, Eamon would send him in, and he'd come in, and it was, I don't know what he was going to say. It was like, James, don't drop the next one or something. Like the most unhelpful thing you can possibly say. I just cut him off. I say, Pac, I know. And he go, all right. And he jog off again. So they were good times. But like, yeah, you make the mistake, but you have to back yourself to get the next one. You only need one chance.
It's Alan Mulcrone asking this. His battles with Keith Higgins. Please ask James about this over the years, especially the 2014 replay. 2 unbelievable players. When you're saying there that you can ruin this lad's day with one moment, one touch, one goal. Are you saying that with your energy? Like, are you, when you're being marked and the cameras are the other side of the field, are you losing any energy in saying that to him, in showing it, or are you just like in your own mind? Is there any interaction going on with you and Keith Higgins that day?
I never had or have any interaction with any opposition player. I just don't care for that. Like, obviously they're going to throw stuff at you, but why would you bother getting involved in all that stuff? In fairness to Higgins, he was never one of those anyway.
Yeah,
he's not going to rub it in your face saying I dispossessed you. But it is a case of you just sort your own mind out. You have your alone time for a couple of seconds. Next ball. That was our mantra. Next ball, off you go. And it was always quick coming. If it's 5 minutes coming or 10 minutes coming, then you might start getting a bit more internal, or you might get a few more negative thoughts. But I suppose we'd have done a bit of work on that as well. And
in the Higgins game, like, okay, so there's no chat going on at all. Like, there's nothing like, I've got you here, I've done that, or you're just on it, like, cool, calm.
It's funny, like, Mayo backs were never
mouthy
at all. Like, we'd have serious battles with them, and bear in mind, this was all man to man as well. Like.
Yeah.
So Mayo backed their defenders, particularly around that time. You were in war with your man for the match, and we had it with them so much in all our games. But there was never we were physical, like we were very physical, but there was never any chat, like never. And we, like, our forwards wouldn't have chatted much, and our backs probably did a bit of talking, but.
Yeah. But what can be said to you that's actually going to put you off? Like, if you're playing at that, if you're playing in an All-Ireland semi or final, something someone says to you on the day is not going to throw you off. I think it's wasted energy, personally. But
and if you don't, do you know when you're losing, when balls are being pumped in to the full forward line and you're not on it? So randomly didn't come across it. I randomly started watching the 2015 All-Ireland final back just to, have a couple of things ahead of this. You touch the ball more than anyone in that first 10-15 minutes. You keep showing. You're playing a slightly deeper role that day. It's funny, like Gooch, I don't think Gooch touched the ball for 9 minutes.
Who was marking you that day, Jimmy?
Johnny Cooper. But in the first 5 or 6, like the ref pulled you for over carrying, which is very harsh. Johnny, it's a horrible day. The wet, the rain.
I did that small hop where you bounce it with 2 hands with your
over carry,
backside out and hop it.
David Coldrick, good mead man, Tommy, great ref.
It was not over.
You won it that day.
Anthony Maher actually really broke my face in that. Yes. I turned and he was turning into me, and neither of us seen each other. And like, Anthony Maher is a big man, and his face just like smashed me front on. I was panned out. I remember it. Yeah,
I meant to send it to you because I screen grabbed it the other day as well. You like, it looked like you were out for the count, man. Like, it actually looked like the doctors are on talking to you, and you're just there. You're like,
it was like right in the mush. It was like front on. Couldn't have caught me sweeter.
Yeah,
and not a bother on him. He was grand. He was
but he caught you. I think he was up here. He caught you up here, I think.
No, I thought it was face.
Was it head to head? Okay, I thought it was chest. Sorry, James. My question there was like, so it's a messy day, and I think Dublin started quite well that day. I think you went 2 points up, Paddy, and
guilty.
You, I think you got on a bit of ball as well. But like, James, you keep showing, like, and it's like, is there not something in you going, it's not happening for me here, like, but you get 3 points, like you have 2 points on the board for half time from play.
You were good, yeah, you were.
You were flying. You just kept showing. I just thought there was something in it that day, and that.
Like, if I go back, obviously after you lose, I played that game a lot differently because I was showing for a lot of those balls, but like with the weather and everything, they probably weren't on, But like, you're so ready for that day that you're going to keep going no matter what. Until it's done, it's all said and done, you're going to keep at it.
Some people freeze, I'm sure.
What's that?
I'm sure some people freeze.
I suppose, yeah. Well, probably all of, those moments. But if you prepare properly, I used to actually always prepare I'd go in myself and I'd throw on the earphones, whatever, but I prepare to have the worst start to the game imaginable.
What do you mean?
I'd go over it in my head that every ball I got was taken off me, that I was missed a free, maybe I was booked, maybe someone was in my ear, all those things. And then you do the mentality side of it to come out of it, and the next ball, do the right thing with that, and you're starting a new circle then, as we said. But if you just prepare yourself for it all to go just as you want, you're absolutely fooling yourself, because you're against the best players in the country, the best defenses. They prepared as well as they could as well. So things are going to go wrong for you that you have to be able to bounce back from.
That's interesting. Caroline Currid spoke about working with Paul O'Connell, and I think she was appalled by the way that he spoke to himself before games.
That's one small element. Obviously, there are other things there where you imagine the best things happening, and that gets you excited for the game, and that kind of releases different juices. But
yeah,
I just thought that did happen to me at times where I'd have a shocker of a start, so I had to have it in the head to recover from it. It was from past experiences, probably.
Yeah, and you would work through that process before the game. This is how we get myself out of it if it happens.
Yeah.
Were you like that, Paddy?
Similar enough to James, yeah. Like you, I agree. You are fooling yourself. You have your daydream moments during the week where you're thinking, I get the ball and I go buy a fella and clip it over the bar, and that's great. And you'd roar the crowd and all that good stuff. But you have to be realistic here as well. Like, these were the biggest games against the biggest teams. Nobody, no matter who they are, how experienced they are, how good a player they are, has a perfect game. Like, we're talking like you're looking at the minute. Clifford, for example, like high profile, top player in the country in terms of what he's done over the last number of years. He kicks wides as well. Like, you have to be prepared for that moment. The best thing, as James has said, okay, that's happened, you accept it, and you need to switch back on immediately. And whatever way you do that, whether it's you have a trigger, whether you're relying on your teammates to talk to you might have a conversation. If you see me drifting, talk to me, and you're in communication with your team. Whatever it is, you have to be prepared for things to go wrong. That's just your preparation. You're not overly focused on it. You're not tiring yourself and anchoring yourself to go, I'm going to have an absolute howler here today and getting on top of yourself. But you need to have prepared that there are going to be moments in this game, particularly in the biggest games, where you're going to be under the pump. And what's my response going to be to that? Do I drift and let it get on top of me? Do I react negatively and lash out at someone, or like make a bad decision, start forcing shots? You see it so much, particularly in forwards, where they're under pressure, and then the next ball they force a shot, or they get blocked down, and you're thinking, why has he done that? It's so obviously, but he's in his own head, he's under pressure. So, exactly. We used to always, it's about like responding, not reacting. Take a second. What do I need to do to get back here? And it does take, because it's not a natural thing, particularly for younger players and things like that. I would have worked on it very similar to what James is saying there. Okay, the ideal scenario is this. But if this happens, if something goes wrong, how do I respond? What am I going to do on the next ball?
Okay.
And then you develop it, and you become an experienced team. It's like you can see it in your teammates. You see a guy who's hot, he's on it, get him the ball, G him up. You see a guy who's struggling, the same thing between a kick out or a set player entered. That was the only time I used to talk on the pitch. I used to say
to a teammate.
Only to a teammate, and I'd never be negative to a teammate. Will you try not to be? Because as the opposition, if you see, say we're playing Kerry and Jimmy's going hatchet at Brosnan for not kicking the ball in, our backs are all over that. And they're egging it on. And the same, if we have a keeper, if we're pushed up on a kick out and we see he's struggling, then you're on him.
Yeah.
You're creating that extra doubt. But at that time, it's just experience and things like that. But very similar to what James is saying. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Stevie Boy wants to know, was there really a fella up a tree in Kerry in 2014?
Yeah.
Was it Donegal guy?
Was there actually a fella up a tree? Yeah.
He's local. I'm not sure, was he from Donegal? No, he wasn't from Donegal. I think he was Kerry, and he was good friends with Jim
from back in the Tralee days, was it?
IT Tralee.
Yeah, and he he said, obviously we locked the gates of the stadium, so we must have had a few fellas out kind of looking or something. I don't know how he alerted the authorities of the Kerry senior team, but he went up the tree anyway to have a look. And the same day, Gooch was after doing the cruise shit, but we were playing an AVB game, and Gooch played half an hour and was outrageous.
Really?
Oh, disgusting.
So he was just back, was he?
Who was marking him?
He was just back. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Manny probably, was he? No?
He would have been playing centre forward, yeah. So maybe someone like that, yeah. But he
division
anyway. And if your man had actually seen that, God knows what he would have taken back to Jim McGuinness. Like, but he was lucky he was caught, but because Goose didn't play in the end. But your man went up the tree, and I think they shook him out of it, I'd say, and he kind of ran away, but he left his wallet and stuff after him.
But this is the report at the time. A man was spotted by members of the Kerry backroom team perched on a tree while a behind the closed doors training session was taking place. Now, they described him as a Donegal man. They said the Donegal man was close to then manager Jim McGuinness and was rumbled when members of the Kerry backroom team heard the noise of rustling branches coming from the grounds of St. Fenian's Hospital? St. Fenian's Hospital, the now vacant psychiatric unit adjacent to Fitzgerald Stadium where the senior squad trains. Kerry bet Donegal
Stadium is a big... Like, he must have been up a monster of a tree.
How can he were training in Fitzgerald Stadium and he can see over the...
He climbed over it was a big tree, Paddy.
Jesus Christ.
So just behind the terrace, in Killarney, behind the terrace, there's the hospital.
Right.
So there are spots there where you can see. So he climbed one of those trees, yeah.
Wow.
You'd want to be getting a few quid off.
And did you know what that night like? Were you laughing about it, or were you like were you raging like her?
No, it was comedy gold.
That's brilliant.
Comedy gold.
That's brilliant.
But if that's on the management there, they could turn that into an oh my God, look what they did kind of thing. But
yeah,
again,
just laugh it off.
It was funny. Yeah, it was Simon. Okay. It was just a mistake.
Okay, a serious question now, right?
What is your favorite color? Come on, where is that question?
Okay, this is from Shane McCarville, Scottstown, Monaghan, Canada. What did James have at Subway in the airport in the Cayman Islands? He was inhaling it, and me listening to the pod at the same time, wondering who you guys had lined up to replace Andy Moran. I had Darren O'Sullivan or Eamon McGee in my mind. I was looking across at James. By God, he looked ready for action for this season. He was some baller.
Cayman Islands.
Can you confirm you're eating a Subway?
I actually was eating a Subway in Cayman Islands.
Is there nothing else there now?
Brilliant.
The airport in Cayman Islands now is like
a
shed with a couple of pilots hanging around waiting for the next plane to come in. You can see they fly him.
It was a failure of confidence. A lovely Subway. A foot long.
He was listening to the pod.
He was listening to the pod at the same time. So there you have it. Jay Cott on Twitter. I can't remember, did he give me his full name? I'll double check it here. Wants me to ask you about the Interfirms team you played in 2019, where AIB bet the Defence Forces by 5-11 to 117. Ask James how good that team was. He said that you had the privilege of playing with a couple of dubs that day as well. Niall Scully and James McCarthy were on it. Paddy O'Rourke in midfield. Yeah. Gooch was playing with you in attack.
Paddy O'Rourke, the Mead goalkeeper.
Playing midfield. Yeah, Colm O'Neill from Cork was in goals apparently.
Yeah, Colm O'Neill was quality. He came up for a few 45s around that time. We played the Army and other banks and things like that.
We have a double hander here. Best player you've played with, and what player from another county would you have most liked to have played with?
The fella that I'm going to say that I would like to have played with is Kieran Kilkenny, because I think that he has a bit of everything, and he seems to be a savage team player.
Yeah.
He never makes silly decisions or decisions for himself. He's always doing the right thing, and he keeps hammering the hammer. Like, he keeps doing the right thing over and over and over again, even if it's the boring thing. If it's the thing in that game that needs to be done, he's the one that just keeps doing it. and he's actually, it's hard to say he's underrated, but like he's the thing that keeps ticking over the Dubs when they're not going well. He'll come up with some move or some pattern of play to get a score and restart the whole thing. So I definitely would like to play with him. I think that he's a savage operator. And the best I play with it, again, is a cheek question, because like obviously you're going to say Cullum, but if I was to go outside the box on it and not pick your obvious couple, don't pick Cullum or Donaghy or Galvin, say, or Declan, then I would say the fellas I liked playing the most with were Maher and Donaghy Walsh.
Really?
Yeah. And it's interesting you said about the work side of things and the fellas doing medicine. Those two lads were very unbelievably smart fellas, and you need those fellas in the team. Like, we actually had a very intelligent team at the time, and just like the Dubs had it in their 5 or 6 in a row. Like, but the two lads were unreal to play with. And
is that? I'm wondering, is that because of how they fed you?
Yeah, 100%. But they were so selfless, and I suppose I was so selfish that it kind of worked.
Balance.
No, like, it was easy. I always thought, we talked about it before, about relationships built up in a team, and they were just two fellas that you could easily build a bit of chemistry with, and they were always interested in, like Kilkenny, doing whatever was the right thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And Donaghy used to play 12, and he'd come in on his right and he'd give a lovely inside of the boot pass, and then he'd ghost away in and he'd be on the penalty spot wide open. He just had that knack of ghosting in for a goal chance, and he'd do all the...
We knew that, like, we used to prepare for that, like,
for Donaghy Walsh.
Because it goes under the radar. And to be fair, in 13 in the semi-final, he gave McCaffrey a bit of a runaround. You know, Jack was only new, and Jack was obviously brilliant going forward. Jack McCaffrey.
In what year was that?
13 semi-final.
Yeah.
13. I think Jack got whipped off at half.
I think he did.
Brilliant going forward, and he was exciting. But that was his first. Him and Kieran, they kind of come on the same big time in 13. And Donaghy he outwinded him. And then ever since that, every time we played Kerry, it was like, this guy, you won't even see him. You'll be focusing on the gooch, you'll be focusing on Jimmy, and you're getting drawn to the ball, and there he is, just creeping up the sideline, nearly like a Ryan McHugh. And all of a sudden, he's on his own.
Would he be waving? Was that what he'd be doing? Would he wave for the ball?
He was crafty at that. Like, he was a smart guy, a smart player. Like,
very smart player.
Yeah.
But such a good team player, teammate, savage teammate. Same with Maher. He'd always have the defensive responsibilities locked in. You know, he'd be in tune with the goalie, with the half back line, and then he'd also get up for a lovely score. He had an unbelievable outside the right.
He did.
And he had a lovely inside the right, from the right, like your favorite one, Paddy. He didn't hook many over, but he'd have the one from the right with the right. And
gimmies, they're gimmies, Jimmy.
Gimmies.
Oh, they're a tough kick. They're a tough.
Nah, man, they're a
natural kicker to have that. He had it.
You can't kick them. Forget about it.
Forget about it.
You're only saying that now. They're lovely scores.
2 more quick ones. What did you see as your greatest strength on a football field?
Tackling.
Aerial duels. No.
Harry Maguire.
Yeah. Milk it turn faster. I heard what someone said. But no, actually, probably turning. I could probably just stop my sprint and go the other way fairly quickly. That was my thing.
Sharpness.
Yeah. I like that. We might come back to that as well another day on how you worked. And Paddy, what was your greatest strength, did you think, on a football field? Was it the gimmies from the 13-yard line?
No, I always would have felt a big plus for it. I played for the team, like, and when you're in the full forward line, that can be hard to do at times. And particularly like when you're playing with the club and stuff, you're the main scorer, or you've had underage success or whatever. I was fully aware my role playing inside in the forward line with Dublin was create space, get on, be a link player, and get the ball off the midfield, or get the ball off the half-backs, and get the ball to a Dean or Bernard or Mano or Khan, that they were going to be closer to goal and get a lot more scores. But I never had an issue playing that role.
Can I ask you, did you ever get caught in, and I don't think you did from watching you a good bit now and watching back your games over the last 2 years. I don't think I've spotted this happen to you much, but is there not a danger of getting caught there where you've tuned your instincts that you want to find the right thing straight away? Whereas I suppose when you're playing at the club, there's that predatory instinct to get the ball, turn and shoot. Like, do you ever get caught where you passed on a good chance because you felt like you should have played it, but then in hindsight, you probably could have taken it?
I didn't mind because I was passing it. Even if I could have kicked it myself, I was generally passing it to someone else who was going to score.
Okay.
So I didn't mind. And I think it was great coaching in a way. We obviously Jason Sherlock and then Jim as well. Like, it was always like, if it's on, kick scores, and I would have taken shots from difficult angles and stuff like that where I knew I was going to nail it. But I was never under pressure going, you need to score 4 or 5 points today.
Yeah.
It was very much, I was fully aware my role in the team, and I was good at getting out to the ball, winning the ball, creating space, and then getting the ball into someone else inside. Like, could I have done the other role? Possibly, but I didn't need it because those guys were better at that than me.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of, you'd always want to score more goals and get more scores and all that type of stuff. But I was happy.
I more so meant, was there ever any, there probably wasn't, like, but was there ever any matches where you regretted not being a bit more selfish? No, never. It always.
Someone else scored. I genuinely.
That was it.
I didn't care. And maybe that's why I've no stars, but alas.
But there's a couple of different aspects of a forward line that make up the whole thing. You know?
Yeah.
Like, if you just have 3 fellas who are gonna hook it over whenever they can, you're never going to do anything together. You know, so you do have to. But the only, and we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, with backs, they need to be constantly on each other to remind each other if something went wrong, how they can fix it and go on with that. But sometimes it's forwards, they're changed more often, you know, so it's hard to get the
set. Yeah.
But like, I think if you leave 3 forwards together for long enough, like, they'll take on a role each, and that has to happen to be successful. And
for them to take the role on each, right? So if I'm thinking yourself, Gainey, and Donaghy, or yourself, Donaghy and Gooch.
Well, that's why Donaghy was a great thing for you lads, because Donaghy was like, he knew he was brilliant at one aspect and understood his limitations probably, and now he could score as well. Like, I remember I've spoken to him about this. It's like, why would he need to force anything when he's got Jimmy, Gainey, and Gooch, who are definitely going to score? They're 10 out of 10. Whereas if Donaghy takes a shot, maybe it's 8 out of 10. Does he get a bit more? We just need to do that. So that awareness and understanding that's why I think he's a brilliant player for you lads. Mm-hmm. That's from the outside looking in, and maybe Jimmy, you'll confirm it.
Plus, he'd be very good. Like, it's not just about him maybe catching the ball and giving it to you. He'd be very good at interfering with your man,
knocking the runner.
Like,
interfering. So I like that. I like that phrase.
In fairness to Andy and Cillian O'Connor, they had a good thing going where they used to make very selfless runs where they'd run to put off the defender and leave the other fella free.
Yeah.
And they didn't really mind who got that first ball. And they kind of shared that around, and they had a great twosome going there. I think Donny was in the same ilk as the boys.
Yeah, that's very interesting. We'll come back to some of that again. Last one to leave it on from Preston Keating, your biggest pet peeve. Andy Moran used to have a moan of the week. We haven't brought that back this week. Anything you hated about the game, or anything you didn't like about the preparation, or anything like that, James? Maybe you were just an easy going, laid back kind of guy that you didn't get too fussed at that stuff, but was there anything that you'd...
I suppose the only thing that did get me at the end was the meetings. There are meetings about meetings at times.
Yeah.
And that's in life in general, I think. There seems to be a graw for meetings. I just don't really have that graw. But you need to get the players for a short time, engage them, and get out onto the field.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I would say that was one thing maybe that I would change.
I'd say that's communal across every single county, and it's even in club. I'd say we used to have, like, at any time the coaches would be looking for feedback, or the start of any season. It's like, what would you change? And without every single year of my career, it's like, we need to knock the meetings on the head here. or do them before training. So when you finish training, get your grub,
and go
have a bit of crack with the lads, and get out of there.
Yeah,
but I would say not just Dublin, every team. That's like, can we please knock this on the head? Like, and get out of here. Like.
It does interfere with the crack because either it stops you having the bit of crack before training and the kind of kick around and the bit of camaraderie there, or else it interferes with your, say, post-training meal where you be relaxed after training, but you're not relaxed because you know you're going into a meeting. So either way, it's affecting that.
That's
We do it before our meal. If we knew it was going to be a snappy enough, we'll do that, because that would be a big thing, and particularly for lads. We're talking about coming from work, like we'd be leaving the house at 7 o'clock in the morning. This is now 9:30 in the evening. Then you'll know, Jimmy, after training, the half an hour you have having your grub and a cup of tea with the lads and a bit of crack is like, that was the most enjoyable bit of the day nearly. The training was hard. The meetings would be serious and preparation and stuff, but you get half an hour where you have a bit of a laugh. You're slating lads who had a howler in training or whatever it was, and just a bit of crack. That was magic stuff. Like. That was one of the best parts of it. Like.
That is the best part, yeah. Definitely.
Lads, we've I told you it'd be a snappy one this week. I absolutely lied through my teeth to you. We're a decent bit into the podcast here this week. I hope people are enjoying it. It is the Ask Me Anthem with James O'Donoghue. We're going to cut it at that. There are so many more questions there. We'll save them and we'll drip feed them in across the season as we go along. Loads of good stuff. It wasn't that bad, James, was it? You weren't under too much pressure there. No,
they were kind questions.
Kind questions, good questions. So just to run through the fixtures for the weekend, we're not going to do any big previews here because there's going to be some good games to get stuck into next week. I'm looking forward to having a good chat about Dublin Mayo next week. Our man Monaghan is on Saturday. That's going to be on the BBC iPlayer. Hopefully we can get a look at that. Kerry Donegal is Sunday. Tyrone Kildare is Sunday. They're both on TV. Derry Cork is going to be available on the TG Cahir app in Division 2. We're also going to have Galway Offaly, Meath and Down. Must-win game there for Meath, and Roscommon Clare in the Hyde in Division 2. In Division 3, we've got Antrim and Wicklow and Corrigan Park. That's going to be interesting. Wicklow have been a sleeper this year, I'm telling you. Wicklow have got 2 decent performances under their belt, and they're going up to Antrim. It'll be interesting to see whether Enda McGinley's Antrim can get their show back on the road. For Man and need a win, they're playing Laois. Limerick are up against Louth in the Gaelic grounds, and Westmeath are playing Longford. In Division 4, it's Carlow against Waterford, Leitrim against London, and Park Sean McDermott, Sligo against Cavan, which could be the battle for the number 1 spot in Division 4, and Wexford against Tipperary. On Wednesday night, it's the Sigerson final. Don't worry, James, we're not going to get stuck into another Sigerson debate here. We're gonna move it on briefly past that, but that's one that's worth keeping an eye out. You should be listening to this, the Football Pod episode 4 on Tuesday. It's out at 6 a.m. on Tuesday morning. I'm going to have it edited and up later on tonight. And just the last bit of house business this week. Kevin Ford, joint top of the table, our Fantasy Manager League, has got in touch, our Fantasy Gaelic Manager, the Football Pod League. Well, Tommy, great show as always. Andrew has Leitrim flying. Niall Murphy from Sligo did the business against Carlow, scoring 9 points for me. He was my captain. I got 66 points in total, which is probably why he's gone up to the top of the table. Paul Conroy is doing well in midfield. All my forwards are going well. No transfer window this week has put me tumbling down the leaderboard, I'd say. McLaughlin's out injured for a while. Hopefully not too long. I had planned to swap my captain to keep Byrne for the next few games. Can you tell Paddy to have a word with Brian Fenton? He's not going too well for me at the minute. He only got me 10 points in 2 games. And also, can you have...
I'll pass on that message just now. I'll ring him now.
Hold on, there's another message for you. Can you also have a word with your good friend Rory Gallagher about not playing Chris McCaig? What's going on there? Keep up the good work. Kevin. Niall Hassan also joined top of the table. Well, fellas, cheers for the mention on the show this week. As we've no transfers to play with at the minute, I'm hopeful of a big performance from Fergal Logan to put Kieran McGeary's red card rescinded before round 3. As we speak right now, I'd say there's a Valentine's appeal going on right now for the Tyrone lads and the Armagh lads to get their red cards appealed, so we should know about that later in the week. Keeping an eye on your old mate Andy Moore and star forward Keith Byrne. He's in my team. Also on the lookout for defenders playing further up the field. I noticed that Tommy's already spotted one playing for the noisy neighbours in Armagh in Aidan Nugent. Finally, a big shout out to the lads at Owen Rua for organising both the fantasy football and hurling leagues. A serious amount of work goes into it on top of the usual club activities, and it all goes towards the club. Fair play to you, giving a bit of exposure. Cheers, Niall. So there are 2 fantasy Gaelic football managers who are top of the leaderboard this week. It remains to be seen whether Paddy Andrews will be able to log into his team this week to make a few changes. James O'Donoghue, you will have a busy few days ahead of you. You're going to tell us what you're up to?
What are you doing, Jimmy? Huh? Go on.
What am I up to? Oh, yeah. Oh, stag. I was thinking, I'm working tomorrow and the day after and after. Yeah, stag in Prague, Saturday, Sunday, home Monday.
A double stag. And he's the best man for both.
It's a joint stag for Jonathan Lyne, former Kerry wingback, and Jamie O'Sullivan, another buddy of mine, plays for the Legion. So they're both getting married in the summer. And yeah, stag in Prague. I'm best man for both, so we have to organise the whole thing.
Lovely.
Are we're recording next Monday night.
Yeah,
right?
it's going to be like your Rory Gallagher episode if anyone wants to go back and look at that. Paddy was a ghost for the whole episode. James is landing about 2 hours for the podcast. Don't worry, James. We'll carry the can for you next week.
Oh, man. Rory Gallagher. I don't think I spoke. He was talking to me and I was asleep in the chair. Like. I was home from Marbella about 3 hours in about 8 different pieces.
Rory, yeah. You did very well. Well, James, best of luck and best of luck to the lads this weekend. Hope you have a great time. Thanks very much to everyone for tuning in this week. That has been episode 4 of the Football Pod with Paddy Andrews and James O'Donoghue. We will chat to you next week. Looking forward to it.